Hey, what's going on? Joe Roscoe here, founder of Built for the Stage. Thanks for joining us live here on our YouTube channel. We are really excited to bring on our guest to chat it up. But before we do, I want to remind you about our free trial that we do. It's a week long here at Built for the Stage, Broadway's #1 fitness platform. It's a week of getting to work with a coach. You get to talk one-on-one. You get to try out our workouts. You get to talk about nutrition. Actors are athletes, so let's start training like one. Head on over to the website, builtforthestage.com, and we'll get on our way with that free trial. You can also click the link in the description of this episode. Special thanks to our partner, Nimble. Really excited to be partnered up with them. Here's a look at their therapy guns, their massage guns, all good things for recovery, whether in the gym, after rehearsals. Yeah, check them out on the Instagram at Join Nimble, or head on over to their website, Join Nimble, and you can get a 20% off of your purchase by using the discount code BFTS. All right, our guest. You've seen him in Aladdin, Lion King, Les Mis. I would call him like Broadway's Adam Jacobs. There, I just gave away our guest if you haven't already read it on the description of this YouTube. But super excited to talk about a new venture that he has, a video release of a performance he did last year called Behind the Curtain. So please, without further ado, welcome Adam Jacobs. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining us today. Yeah,
Thanks for
super
having me.
excited. Yes, been a follower of yours and just a fan from afar. So nice to get to chat with you today. So
Likewise.
you've done the thing, my friend. You've played Aladdin, Simba, and Lion King. You got to be in one of the revivals of Les Mis as Marius.
Yeah.
And now you kind of are telling your story through this performance called Behind the Curtain. Let's just start with introing the listeners out there about Behind the Curtain and this project you have going on.
Sure. So this is a live concert that was filmed at Vitello's in Los Angeles last year in around December. And I was actually out there working on a film called Last Call in the Doghouse, which also coincidentally is going to be coming out pretty soon. And the producers and I came up with the idea of taping this concert. And, you know, it was something that is sort of like a project of mine that's like very close to my heart. It's something that's, you know, revealing a little bit. I called it that, Behind the Curtain, because it's sort of an in-depth look of sort of my journey in my career and where I've come from. And I talk about my family. I talk, you know, a lot. And I also talk about what it's really like to be an actor, you know, behind the scenes. And I think it was like 16 or 17 songs. And it was a really kind of a cabaret show that it turned out really well. And my producer did a great job with multi-camera angles. I think he had like 5 GoPros set up. And so it was really just this cool project. And I wasn't sure how it would actually turn out, because it was what we taped was the first time me doing this show, really. But what they ended up capturing was this really kind of organic, fun concert with, you know, touching moments and some surprise sort of like, you know, I don't want to give too much away, but there's like some pop rock in there. You know, so it's not all just Broadway. You know, like the beginning part is mostly Broadway, but then I kind of jump around and talk about showmances, as I'm sure a lot of the listeners out here will know about those. So it's really just a really fun show, and they taped it, and we don't have like a release date just yet. I want people to know, but it's coming very soon. So I just want you guys to keep an eye out for that. We're, you know, shopping around different streaming services, and hopefully you'll be able to see that very, very soon.
Cool. You can check that out. Probably, I'm sure you'll be posting on your Instagram, Adam Jacobs NYC, when all that comes out.
Yeah.
Let's rewind. Let's go back to Adam as a a younger fellow. How did you get into theater? How did this kind of start out? You mentioned your family a bit. Did they have any influence in that, or how did this all start?
Oh yeah, my sister likes to take credit for my career because she started, singing and doing all that performing before me, and she's 4 years younger. And at the time, I was just a teenager doing soccer. I was pretty athletic as a kid. And I know your listeners are very into athletic things too, and working out. And so I was playing soccer. I did baseball. I did tennis for a while. I was doing a bunch of different kind of sports. And I was also taking piano at the conservatory. So because my parents wanted me to to learn an instrument early on, so they always joke, we don't ever want you to play goalie because you're going to ruin your concert pianist career if you have to try to catch a ball and jam your fingers. I was like, okay, all right. But anyway, my sister, yeah, so she joined this group in San Francisco where I grew up called Razzle Dazzle Kids. And she asked me if I wanted to join. And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to hang out with my sister. But, I capitulated and I was sort of at the age where the girls were starting to look cute. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll check it out. And that's kind of how I got into performing initially, and taking voice lessons from the head of the group, and then one thing sort of led to another, and yeah, I made a life in theater. High school really was where I did all the shows and kind of cemented my path to a career in the arts. So that's kind of how it happened.
Did you study in college, or how did you transition out of high school?
Yeah, so while I was in high school, my mentor, he was like Mr. Peter Devine. He was like my teacher, my director, and my everything. And he said, you really could do this if you wanted to. And so I applied to New York University, to University of Michigan, and to UCLA. And I got my first choice, which was NYU. And I went out to New York University, Tisch School of the Arts, got my BFA in theater. And yeah, so I decided to do musical theater from there on out.
Cool. And then you graduate and you immediately book Broadway, or how did you?
That's a myth. No, that doesn't happen. That doesn't. Exactly. I mean, it does happen. It does happen for some people. I'm not gonna lie, but that is so rare.
That's usually,
you graduate. Yeah, you graduate and you're like, all right, I'm ready. I got my headshot. Let's go down to Broadway and see who's hiring. No, that doesn't. Right. That doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah, that's usually my teasing way of saying, like, all right, let's get into like the grind of, getting to the start of things, and when you finally broke through the Broadway barrier, I guess I'll say.
Yeah.
Tell us just a little bit about that, and then I kind of want to get into how you just put up a consistent career, which is a tough thing to do in this industry. So can you rewind a little bit to that venture of making your Broadway debut and auditioning for it and all that?
Yeah, of course. So I was auditioning for a good maybe year and a half without really booking much. And I was doing Spirit cruises, out in the harbor, singing. I was cater waitering. I was doing all the actor jobs, right? I did telemarketing for a while. And I finally, after going in for Tara Rubin casting for over and over and over, and they got to know my work and not hiring me for this project, but then they got to know me, trust me, and they put me into the national tour of Les Mis as Marius. And that was sort of my big break. That was my first kind of big gig, and I was so excited for it. And then they had the revival of Les Mis back in 2006, and that was a very multi-ethnic cast. And I auditioned with my co-star from the road, Ali Ewalt. The two of us went in together, and we nailed that audition. Cameron McIntosh loved us and said we want to put them into the revival. And so that was my big Broadway debut as Marius in Les Mis. And that show ran for just over a year. But it was in that time, I got to work with all these Broadway veterans like Gary Beach, and Alex Gemignani was Valjean, and Norm Lewis was Javert. So like all these, and then Lea Salonga and Daphne Rubin Vega were Fontaine at different points. So it was like these amazing people, and I learned so much. And I had finally, sort of made it. I cracked Broadway, as they say, and it was such a great and fantastic time.
Okay, lovely. Thanks for giving us that insight. I want to get into, because I like to parallel a lot of things to fitness. You can make your debut or you can get into phenomenal shape, but as we know in fitness or in this industry, it's never permanent and it's never guaranteed that it'll always be with you. How did you, when you closed Les Mis, how did you go about keeping your feet dug into the sand, I'll say, where like you were still either hitting the pavement, or how did that next part go for you where you just, I'll say, cemented your name into these casting directors and producing teams' minds and brains,
Right. So, it's sort of this idea of like, once you've made Broadway, you can suddenly just stop working. I think people think, I've made it. But that is so not true. Your job as an actor never really ends. And I can even tell you, like, even after Les Mis closed, I had a good long stretch of not working, where I was like, what just, I thought now all these doors would open and I'd be, like you said, in the minds of the casting directors, doing going from job to job. But that was not the reality for me. And I had to kind of come to terms with that. It was difficult. So sometimes, that's what happens. And you really have to work at you really have to work at keeping moving forward and, just auditioning. You never stop auditioning, even though when you have a gig and when you've reached the top of the top. And even when I got to Aladdin, you're always hustling. You're always trying to just keep it going and building off the momentum that you have. And just, that's the name of the game. And in terms of just, staying fit and healthy throughout this whole thing, or you said actually keeping your feet kind of like being grounded.
Yeah.
Is that what you were referring to with your feet? Yeah. So and not let yourself get carried away. I think just how I am naturally is sort of been, I'm from California. I'm sort of a little bit more laid back than most people. And I think I've always been sort of more family oriented, maybe than a lot of other people. And I've always had that sort of base. So whenever there has been times in my life that have been difficult, I've been able to turn to my friends and family and kind of keep myself centered. And obviously, being fit and working out and taking care of yourself is part of that. And I think that's important, as we can talk about that a little bit too. Yeah. So do you have any, what did you want to ask about?
Which of the roles out of the, I'll assume I'm familiar with Marius, but but as far as firsthand playing the role, what do you think was the most physically demanding that, 8 times a week was quite the task?
Sure. Besides climbing the barricade every night, which was fun.
Okay, I got you.
Jungle gym, or having to support your weight as Valjean is carrying you through the sewers.
Okay.
Besides those two things, just the overall, it's what everybody knows is that it's 8 times a week, and with that show in particular, you're on a rake stage on a turntable with cobblestones. So my knees kind of took a beating with that one. And so it was important for me to make sure I was doing my leg strengthening exercises to keep my knees strong, because, you're wearing these shoes and it's cobblestones. And so I had to figure out how to manage that. And then, so that I think just being able to do that show, it was really an emotional show, that show specifically. And, so that was, it was draining in that way. And so I had to figure out ways to not feel so devastated when I'm singing empty chairs at empty tables, to the point where I can't act and can't do the rest of the show. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
8 times a week.
Yeah, out of Aladdin and Simba, seeing the shows, I actually have Brad Gibson and Jacob Dickey, who have played either Simba or Aladdin. I've got to see them in it. I'm gonna guess Aladdin is tougher to do physically. Is that true?
Yeah, for sure. Because there's a lot more, jumping and swinging down poles. It's basically American Ninja Warrior, I like to say. And I actually had that playing in my dressing room as part of my mental preparation every night. And that and juggling. I would literally juggle too in my dressing room as part of like this focus thing in order to get ready. And but so that show was definitely the most physical. Simba also was physical in the sense that there was more there's dancing in Friend Like Me, but there's also the whole physical nature of Simba, and you're dancing with Alvin Ailey dancers, so you have to step up your game when I was doing that show. And I wasn't trained as like a strong dancer. I started kind of late, so that the physical nature of that show too. Like even my entrance as Simba, you swing in on a vine and you drop and you sing a bunch of A's, and then you do a cartwheel and a double turn while singing an A upside down. It's like you're doing all this crazy stuff, and you're shot out of a cannon. So that was hard with that one, because you have to wait, right. and then you're shot out of a cannon, and then you're all of Act Two. But with Aladdin though, it's the whole show. So that was physically demanding. It was mentally tough, and 8 shows a week. That show, you really have to be, on top of your game and managing, I hate to say like pace, because you're doing 8 shows a week and you never want to feel like you're holding back, but it's important to know that you have to know where your limits are, and you have to know what you're able to do and where that line is, where it's like, you don't want to, give 135, 100, 3,000% or whatever. Yeah. On Tuesday, when you have a double weekend at the end of the week. So, you want to give 100% of what you have all the time. And that's just, it's kind of finding where that is.
Yeah, it's giving 100% relative to you doing it 8 times, as opposed to giving it 100% relative to, it just being a one and done. For sure.
Exactly.
So wait, let me get this correct. You listened to American Ninja Warrior songs or something before doing Aladdin? What
no,
is this?
So I was fortunate enough to be a leading man who negotiated a TV in his dressing room with cable. Okay. So I had it playing on the monitor in my dressing room before I would go down and do the show. It was just something I did. I had it playing on the TV, and it kind of got me psyched up, and so that's all.
How did you, jumping back to Lion King, with that abrupt start, as Simba is now like the grown-up Simba, how did you get ready off stage to make sure that you're ready to go for that quick start?
Yeah, so I would literally sprint in the back. I would do just line sprints. And there's like, there's not a lot of space in the theater. And so I would try to find little areas of the stage where I could do my push-ups. I could do just some jumping jacks, just some knee slaps, whatever it is, just to try to, some jump, just to try to get your body going, your heart rate up. Sure. Because like I said, you are shot out of the cannon from that very first, it means no worries, whatever it is. So you have to be ready. And so I would do all kinds of stuff, really, just keep moving, just try to keep moving. And mind you, I have this mask on my head, which weighs about the same as a football, this carbon fiber Simba mask. And so you have to figure out how to use that and not hurt yourself with that as well. So it's all those things that you discover and you figure out in rehearsals to then be able to do it live in front of an audience.
Yeah, cool. Let's jump. Thanks for all that. Let's jump to behind the curtain again, even though this is very behind the curtain, anyways. But the show behind
Yeah.
the curtain, the show behind the curtain. Maybe this could be like our teaser and our last little topic we talk about here before we hop on over for our podcast interview. But is there anything in the show that you share that wasn't the peak, but was more of a valley, and how you overcame that?
Yeah, I talk a little bit about sort of like non-traditional casting and the struggles of the business, and how it relates to me in terms of my mixed ethnicity, and how it was kind of difficult a little bit to find where I fit in the business, especially early on. And I talk about, maybe I look more Latino than I do Asian or whatever. And so that was sort of a thing I had to deal with personally. And I talk a little bit about that in the show. I also talk about long distance relationships, because a lot of people in the business have tours, they're separated from their loved ones for long periods of time. And that's hard, very hard. And so I talk about that. So, there's a lot. I kind of packed a lot into this little show, and I'm excited for people to see it. And it feels very raw. It's kind of shot in a documentary style, with little interviews kind of and pictures from my past, like kind of thrown in. So I'm excited for people to see it.
Gotcha. So it's gonna be a little bit like this. It's gonna be like it's like this young guy is coming out of nowhere, and we're gonna get to here and here and here. Gotcha.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's gonna be it.
Hey, if you want to do a part 2, let me know if you need some assistance and someone on the side to help out. Cool. Let's do that. I love to talk a little bit more about maybe giving the listeners some advice on just finding your way and your genuine self and who you can be in this industry, and how you fit in, not as a prototype or some copy of something else, but how you fit in as your true self. And maybe I could squeeze some juicy like showmance stuff out of you that you mentioned from before.
Yeah, no, what you said just now is very important. Not trying to copy somebody else, not trying to put on something, not trying to give the casting directors what you think they want. It's so important really to tap into that true self, to kind of know who you are, and really what they want to see is who you are. They don't want to see a copy of something else. And so I always try to find ways to make every character I play as relatable to me as possible, just to whatever it is, and to try to figure out ways to make it, because it just becomes more real that way. You know what I mean? All right, what was the other part you were saying? Sorry.
And then you had mentioned in like the very beginning of this conversation about behind the curtain, you mentioned showmances, that you talk about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was the kind of fun part of my show, is that we all know what that's like, and how volatile those relationships can be. And so I throw in a little bit of Journey, I throw in a little bit of Stevie Wonder in my show. So it's really just kind of fun, and and that's kind of the light part of my show, behind the curtain. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, well, I'm gonna say goodbye to you here, but everyone that is watching, we're gonna chat a little bit more on the podcast about Adam's advice on finding your way in the industry. And we'll also keep prying at him about getting these showman stories out of him or something like that. All right. I'll see you in a second. Thanks, Adam.
Okay.
All right, everyone. That's Adam Jacobs on our YouTube channel, Built for the Stage. Now, if you want, and it's not going to be right now because we're streaming live on YouTube, but in a week or so, Adam's podcast episode will release on Built for the Stage podcast that's produced by the Broadway Podcast Network. And you can check out that exclusive conversation there about the little tidbits we just mentioned. So if you want to get a further inside scoop from Adam, check us out on Built for the Stage podcast. You can find that anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget, if you want to try a free trial, you can go to the website builtforthestage.com. It's Broadway's #1 fitness platform. We've worked with, I don't know, a lot of people from the Broadway scene. We're very grateful for that. And we're here for you in any capacity that you need us. So once again, head on over to the website, builtforthestage.com. I'm Joe Roscoe. We'll see you when we see you. Later.